I can remember telling my grandmother and having my grandmother tell me that I could never tell this story, that it would cause so much problem and no one would believe me, and she would say I was lying. And I find out 25 years later from my mother that she told my mom that someday that Art would tell a story and it would be a lie.
I was backed into a wall and fists shoved into my face, and I was burned with cigarettes, and a knife held to my throat, all the time holding my newborn 3-month-old daughter.
I grew up in a household with incest. Then I was gang raped in 1979 and almost lost my life.
A person who claimed to be a friend of the family found a way to manipulate me and basically began systematically sexually abusing me on a weekly basis for about almost 4 years.
I was in high school. It happened in Hollywood, California. And the second time I was raped, I was 18 years old. I was a freshman in college.
It was my husband, a person that I was married for 6 years to. We had a son together, and all of a sudden he is trying to kill me and he murders my father.
I could still see the glass shattering over my head and the blood coming out of my skull. And every time that the Coke bottle cracked open, I would fall to the floor and thought I was going to die.
What saved me that day, I think, was my daughter, because I thought, oh my gosh, if I don't take care of her, who will?
So it doesn't matter, you know, what gender you are, it doesn't matter how old you are, you are overpowered at that particular time.
I was a secret for so many years and unable to speak about rape, and now I can't stop.
I decided to speak out publicly about my experience with rape because I grew up in Los Angeles and it's important for me to give back to my community.
It was really to change laws and policies and procedures because my experience was horrible and I didn't feel it was necessary that that should happen to anybody else.
I watched her tell us one thing but then live something else. Yeah, the violence in our home growing up was pretty hectic.
Initially, I was really just forced to come out and speak about the violence that I experienced, but now it's just a more personal matter for me to get the word out there for people to have the awareness of how vicious and violent people can be.
There's all these myths regarding sexual assault and domestic violence, and we need to, as a group, stop this.
And I think it's important for other survivors to understand that they're not alone.
The decision to speak publicly was really hard. I'm basically pretty shy, although I know a lot of people don't believe that, but I am. And so the first couple times I did it, I was so nervous. I just knew my voice was shaking. But after a while, I think that, you know, the first one or two, it just was so empowering.
Just to be able to go out and have people listen to me after being silenced for so long.
I could see people thinking about it and possibly applying it to their own lives.
Telling my story makes me feel free from shame and free from blame.
I was breaking a secret. And all my life as a child, I had been told, you can't tell this. It's a secret, you can't tell. This is a family issue.
The last abusive relationship that I was in, I realized that that's why I was in those relationships, because I was actually able to free myself the way Mommy never did.
So I feel like I've turned my worst liability into my best asset to help the world, you know, and myself to heal.
I have 2 words to talk about how my impact is. I think that my first word is illumination, because it sheds light on a very dark thing.
Demystify.
Transcendence.
Activism.
I would say education.
Knowledge.
Some people have never heard a survivor story. So I think there is an educational part of it. People understand what could happen. Everybody's story is different, but they understand how survivors, or in my case, how I felt, and some of the common things that a lot of us go through.
I would hope that they feel some sort of relief.
Someone once said to me in this program, I would never, ever feel badly about what I've learned. I hope that no one has to learn it the way that I did, but I'm grateful for what I've learned. So the impact has been an opportunity to share what I've learned with others so that hopefully they don't have to learn it the same way that I did.
There are still many people that I know that don't believe this actually exists, that they still believe that this is a problem that happens to one or two people.
It's one of those things that people just say should stay behind closed doors, and after what I went through, for as long as I went through it, I was just not willing to be quiet anymore.
And I'm active in spreading knowledge, active in peace over violence, and practicing it on a day-to-day basis so you can speak and say to people to choose peace over violence, which is why I love this organization so much, because it just speaks for itself. I'm a survivor.
I was a victim. Now I'm a teacher over violence.
I was a victim. My mother was a victim. And now I transcend over violence.
If I could help one person, then my experiences would somehow be worth it. I was a victim, now I'm communication over violence.
I'm an educator over violence.
Empowered over violence.
I'm reaching out over violence.
I am a warrior over violence.
It went from I'm a survivor or I was a victim, but now we heal. It's no longer about me, it's about all of us.